Well, hello there. We have some things to talk about in today's conversation because we are going to be covering a sign that so deserves some extra attention, some extra love, and peeling back the layers. We are getting into all things Capricorn and getting ourselves prepared for a really beautiful Capricorn season ahead. This is going to be a potent one. We have some really powerful transits moving through this particular Capricorn season, including a Mercury retrograde and a Venus-Pluto conjunction happening on New Year's Eve that is going to be really beautiful. But I think in order to really do justice to any season, it's important that we get ourselves set up, we get ourselves acquainted with an archetype. And for you out there who have Capricorn strong in your chart, a lot of this is not going to be new information, but if you're looking to really develop your relationship with this energetic, to understand it better, to understand your partner or friends better, or to just get more well-rounded in yourself, this is going to be a fantastic conversation. We are going to get ourselves grounded in Capricorn energy, go over the basics, bust some of the stereotypes about this beautiful, magnificent sign, go into the deeper meanings of what this archetype is really all about and some of the themes for this season. And then I will close out by giving us a really nice map of the season ahead, what transits to pay attention to, and some intuitive cards to go along with our conversation. I am so excited to do justice to Capricorn energy today and to bring you into a really comforting space because this sign is the sign that always bridges the years. This is always the sign that closes out a calendar year and opens up a new calendar year. And I think for that reason, it's very tender and important to build a relationship with it. So let's get into it. So let's get acquainted with Capricorn's contours and energetics and dig a little bit more deeply into this archetype so that we can work with it in really meaningful and potent ways. To start off, let's get a general sense of what this sign is all about. So this is the cardinal Earth sign. And because of that, this sign is very connected with how we initiate things. And I love the fact that this is the sign that bridges us through calendar years. It's the sign that starts on the solstice in December every year when the sun moves into this sign, and is the sign that we always move through when we open up a new calendar year. For me, Capricorn is so deeply associated with how we initiate ourselves into the things that really matter to us, the bones of our lives. You know, Capricorn is the earth sign, right? So it's about how we become more ourselves embodied in this lifetime. And while we think of signs like Aries or Aquarius as the signs where we really learn to be our quirky, most authentic selves, we can't really access the playfulness of those energetics without first having the foundation of Capricorn's energy, which is so far outside of trends and whimsical things that come and go very quickly, and is so much more about getting to the bones of who we are and really, really sitting with that. And that's why I think I love this energetic so much. This sign is ruled by Saturn, Father Time. And I know Saturn gets quite the rap here in the astrology world. And I do plan on doing a Saturn conversation sometime in the very near future because we need to check back in with Saturn. But Saturn is a beautiful energetic that allows us to see the process of something coming together over the course of time. I think that when we're thinking about Saturn and Capricorn specifically, this is about how we show up in each day, how we initiate ourselves into the process of creation in each day, and the consistency that really shows us creative brilliance and movement through life, rather than trying to conquer the world in one day or trying to force ourselves to become a different shape overnight. And that's what I really love about this. I think Capricorn is also, because it's associated with Saturn, it's also associated with symbolism of the father archetype, of the energetic that is about how we contain ourselves, how we give ourselves security, comfort, and a sense of stable roots. But Capricorn also has a lot of symbolism and imagery that I think is very mystical. Of course, we can think about the mountain goat with Capricorn, And I often, whenever I'm working with this energy, think of mountains and the root systems of mountains and all the subterranean work we do. But I also think, it's interesting because Capricorn's also associated with the sea goat, which is this half fish, half goat creature, which really is about being between worlds and being able to bridge the gap between the intuitive and the practical. And I think for that reason, Capricorn is much more intuitive than we often give it credit for, and is kind of the bridge maker between what we know at an intuitive level and how we practice into that and how we respect ourselves in the day-to-day lives, being embodied in this world, in this time. And like I said, because this is the Earth cardinal sign, this is going to be about how we initiate ourselves here in human form and the initiation process that we go through at any given point in our lives, the rituals of initiation. So this is often where we will take the time to think about how we are initiating into the unknown and the new. Stereotypes for Capricorn energy are, just for people who have Capricorn suns or rising or a lot of Capricorn energy, are being obsessed with work and money and success, right? That's the big stereotype. Unable to access emotions. It's all about practicality. It's all about how can we get things done, not about how you're feeling, right? Unimpressed by other people, very exacting, high expectations, stubborn. I think stubborn is definitely a Capricorn stereotype. And then I think also just that idea of being focused solely on achievement and how we show up in the world. These are all stereotypes that are based on this idea of Capricorn being the 10th sign associated with who we are in the world, of building a legacy, of taking our space in the world and having an identity, an identity that's external and how we present out into the world. But if we go deeper with Capricorn, I've already mentioned a few of the deeper themes with this energetic, but for me, this is a sign that is about living a meaningful life and doing it in a way that is very rooted and clear. So getting back to basics. And what I love about this energetic is that this is a sign and an energetic when we're moving through Capricorn season, we're working with this energy in any profound way in our lives. There's going to be a theme of not needing to be pulled around in multiple directions by what is trendy, what is popular or interesting in the moment. It's about disentangling ourselves from that idea and getting more in touch with what is truly meaningful in each side of each of ourselves. It's really coming back to the bones of our essence and getting very, very clear and very, very honest about that. And that is what I love about Capricorn energy. And Capricorns that I've had in my life, friends and people who have meant a lot to me, or people who have, strong Capricorn placements, Venus or Mercury, I've always found that I have really great conversations with them about these topics, about what really matters to us. And there's like an honesty and an authenticity in those conversations that I love. I don't have to play any roles when we're having those conversations. I think also Capricorn can help us to achieve things, right? This is a Saturn ruled sign that is about how we achieve and the experience of being in a body and achieving something. But it's important here to be really distinctive with what that achievement is, what we consider an achievement, what we consider a success. Because in order for us to be truly aligned with Capricorn's energy, it has to be something that feels like a true achievement to us. And once again, this is beyond how we compare ourselves to other people, how we compare ourselves to the trends of a culture over 10 or 20 years, or even within 3 minutes. It's going to have to be something that we tap into outside of those structures. And that, I think, is the subtle art of working with this energetic. This sign is also fantastic for stripping away illusions of what we think we desire, what we think we are supposed to go after. And I think this season particularly is going to have a lot of themes around that, around letting go of chasing what we don't actually long for. This is also a sign that I think, especially as we've worked with for such a long time with Pluto in this sign, that this is a sign right now and in this era of life that's about transmutation and the process of changing form and becoming more truly ourselves in a quiet way that is about coming to our security, our roots, and our clarity. And so this is a no nonsense sign. I will say that about it, but that's what I think is so medicinal about it. The honesty, the truth bringing, the clarity, and the disentangling that can happen through this energetic is really beautiful. I think also keep in mind this is a sign associated with the father figure. So every time I'm working with Capricorn energy, I make sure to connect to my inner parent, to the inner parts of myself that care for me so much that they make sure that I have containers to be held in, ways that I feel safe. And that's going to be unique to each of us, but it's something to really cultivate during this season. Let's get into the themes for this particular Capricorn season. It's going to tie into a lot of what I've just said, but it's going to be about being yourself, which means not following trends and letting go of comparisons. This is not about popularity. It's not about what seems trendy as we open up 2023. It's going to be very important to check in with yourself and notice when it feels like you're getting pulled to try and fit into trends or ideas or to compare yourself to other people. This is a fantastic season to disentangle ourselves from that. This is also going to be a particular Capricorn season about reviewing our goals and what we consider successful or meaningful in life. And that's a big one. That's an ongoing topic for most of us throughout our lives. But this is just a really sweet spot to reflect. Maybe some goals that you've had in the last few years are leaving, and it's time to make a little bit of space for new goals that align more with who you truly are outside of popular trends. It's a really great season for incorporating all the changes we have made over this last year and even over the last decade or 15 years. This is a really, really great time to incorporate how we've changed. I think this is a really good one. Loving ourselves through change. Loving ourselves through the process of transformation. I think this is going to be a really big theme for this Capricorn season, and especially as we bridge into the new year. Embracing the sense that we can't go back. We don't need to go back, and finding peace with where we are now. And I think my favorite is amplifying a quiet, centered self-confidence, the calm, centered self-confidence. And that's one of the energetics that I love so much about Capricorn season. So that's kind of our 101. How do we get initially initiated into Capricorn's energy? This Capricorn season is full of symbolism, initiations, rebirth, and discernment. And I'm really excited to chat about some of the really potent transits we are going to be moving through as we close out 2022 and open 2023. So Capricorn season begins on the solstice when the sun enters Capricorn on December 21st. And very quickly after that, on December 23rd, we're going to have that new moon in Capricorn. And this new moon is going to be fantastic for really clearly defining your vision of success for yourself. And I think that this is a really interesting conversation. It's one I like to check in with probably quarterly, which is just really being clear about what I define as success. For me, success is having a peaceful day where I feel safe, where I am enjoying the simple things. And the more days I have of that in my life, the more successful I feel personally. So each of us is going to want to take some time to explore what that looks like and really think outside of the confines of what we think of as success in our culture, because so often there's an emptiness there, right? So this is a beautiful new moon to check in with yourself and also to invite your interesting and quirky self to that conversation, because that part of ourself is longing to show us the way. And we so often put that part of ourselves on the back burner thinking that it is irresponsible. So that's a really great new moon to invite that part of ourselves in. And we're going to have, and there is a new moon discussion out already about this if you are interested in that. This new moon is also going to be happening the same time as Chiron in Aries goes direct. Chiron has been retrograde since July 19th this year. And for me, Chiron's been in Aries for several years, and there's been a really big theme about learning how to accept ourselves without having our representative on display at all times, and healing our sense of alienation and this sense of being this individual that has all this shameful stuff inside of them. some really big themes. But this is a great new moon and a great moment as Chiron stations direct to think about the second half of this year and how you've done some of that healing work and how you've come to know yourself more deeply and maybe done a lot more self-acceptance than you may even realize. So this is also a new moon to take a moment to recognize that in yourself and amplify that sense of belonging by just knowing that your way of being in the world is beautiful. On December 29th, we're going to have one of the big moments of this Capricorn season, which everybody's going to be talking about. There's going to be a lot of memes floating around blaming Mercury retrograde, you guessed it, for all sorts of New Year's kerfuffles. But, this Mercury retrograde is going to all take place in Capricorn. We'll have had Mercury pre-shadow this whole the first half of December or most of December, I'm sorry. I'm thinking in all sorts of circles right now. So this Mercury retrograde in Capricorn, I really love this. I love that it's actually happening as we go toward New Year's Eve, because for me, Mercury retrograde is all about that introspection, all about that feeling of coming home to ourselves, stepping outside of linear time, challenging this idea of linear time and timelines and deadlines and the way and the timing with which we do things. And Mercury in Capricorn is just going to amplify that much more. But I'm going to do a deeper talk about this Mercury retrograde, both on my Patreon and hopefully over here a little bit too. So if you're looking for resources, I'm going to be delivering those. But here are some basic themes for this retrograde, which is from December 29th to January 18th. Not comparing ourselves to others, letting go of all those comparisons, freeing ourselves and disentangling ourselves from passing trends and things that are seemingly popular in the moment, working with our inner parent and really amplifying storytelling with that inner parent that is healthful and loving. So those are just some of the themes that we're going to be working with, and I think they're beautiful and so healing. And for those of you who kind of struggle, like myself, I'm not a huge fan of New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. The pressure of it, I have to kind of define it for myself in a very quiet and soft way. And I find that these kind of questions are really how I like to do it, rather than thinking about, well, there's a year and what have I accomplished and who have I been? I'm thinking a little bit more softly and open-endedly about the whole thing. And I think this Mercury retrograde will help all of us with that. So we're in the new year now, right? Once we hit that retrograde, we are going to have around New Year's Day, Venus and Pluto are going to have a little conjunction in Capricorn. And I love this so much for a New Year's Eve, New Year's Day conjunction, because for me, this is about loving ourselves through the process of transformation, not just loving ourselves in our accomplishment, not just loving ourselves when we've hit the marker, when we've done the thing, when we've accomplished the vision of ourselves that we think we need to have, but really starting off the year with a clear directive that we are allowed to love ourselves in the midst of the transformation, because this whole life is a transformation. It's constantly going on, which it can be a little tiring sometimes. Sometimes it's like, man, this just keeps evolving and changing. But that's really the message here with Venus and Pluto conjunct at this moment. And I just love it. It's giving me goosebumps right now, even talking about it. So that's opening up our year. Then as we move into January, we're going to start to work more with Aquarian energy. It's going to start to trickle in. Venus quickly moves over to Aquarius. And this is very self-expressive, playful, curious, thinking about new ways to express ourselves, thinking about new ways to show ourselves love and to express love. There's a really big breath of fresh air that comes with Venus moving into Aquarius. On January 6th, we're also going to have a full moon in Cancer. It's our first full moon of the new year. And Cancer full moons are notorious for being about feeling our emotions. And I do think this is going to be a beautiful full moon to let your tears flow, let your energy flow. It's going to be a great self-expressive full moon, and we will have a deeper chat about that when we get a little closer to that new moon very, very soon. So I'm looking forward to exploring that with you, because Cancer energy is one of my favorite energies. I love it so much. And then January 12th, another big item coming up, which is Mars stationing direct in Gemini. So we have been working with Mars retrograde for about 2 months here. And so now we're just going to take a moment to think about this retrograde and what it has brought for us. I find stationing days really great to think about it. Some of the themes, just as a reminder for this particular Mars retrograde in Gemini, have been discernment, getting really clear, picking this from that, which is a fairy tale and myth symbolism of picking out the seeds from the chaff and all of that. Not giving away our power to willy-nilly, to comparison to all of that stuff, coming home to ourselves, taking action through feeling connected to our core first, having clear and healthy boundaries, healing our inner storyteller and allowing that inner storyteller to bring more medicine to our lives. And being very clear when it comes to the hungry voices of the world that we are not going to stay in old patterns. So those are some of the big themes that have been moving through as we worked with Mars retrograde in Gemini. I wonder how you're all feeling. Let me know in the comments. How was your Mars retrograde? What came up for you? Then as we close out Capricorn season, Mercury stations direct on January 18th. And the sun moves into Aquarius on January 20th. So you can see that this is a transmutational season. We're going to be working with a lot of introspection, reflection, closing out some retrogrades, doing one big ol' retrograde for most of Capricorn season, and doing some really powerful exploration of how we define our lives and what they mean to each of us. Just those light themes, you know. So I'm going to close out our conversation today by pulling a card, maybe two, to give us a little intuitive guidance for the beginning of the season. But I want to keep this really soft and open because, like I mentioned, this is a season that's not about finding our worth from out there and all the threads and all the voices and everything that exists in the world. It's going to be about coming back home to ourselves and really getting back to the bones of what matters to each of us. And so I want to leave this conversation open so that we can each connect with ourselves that much better. Eight of Swords, you know, it's a classic. I always love a good chance to explore Eight of Swords. I'm going to follow that up with one more card. And I will tell you why I love Eight of Swords in just a moment. And Two of Swords. Okay. The two blindfolded ladies of the tarot. They feel like sisters to me, you know? So this is really interesting, actually. It takes me back to that idea of discernment and how we do discernment in life. I think it's so interesting that we got the two women that are blindfolded from looking around the world. These two cards are both about the discomfort of facing in toward ourselves and finding our own sense of empowerment and clarity. The Eight of Swords especially there's this context where there's this person who feels like they're kind of in this chaotic tornado, right? And they're trapped and they don't know how to get out and they want to panic. But the messaging for Eight of Swords is about getting calm enough to pay attention and really hear and to free ourselves. It reminds me of that disentangling from messaging, from voices, from overwhelm of whatever's going around in the world. You know, the trends, the popularity, what we think we need to be doing, what we think we need to be beautiful or successful or whatever. For me, this Eight of Swords is really about having the courage to sit with ourselves through that, and through the part of ourselves is like, well, if you're not keeping up with all this stuff, then what's your value in life? What are you doing? Do you have enough time? So this is really about honoring that process and knowing it's okay to not know. I think so many of us, as we move through the season, we're going to feel like we need to know. It's a new year. We should be clear. We should have our plans. We should have quarter one already sorted out. A lot of us are going to feel as though we can't see and we don't know what's next. It's giving me goosebumps even talking about this. But here's what I want to say about that. This is where the good stuff is. This is where a lot of the magic happens, deep within our bones. And our culture hasn't given us a lot of messaging around that, has not given us a lot of support around that. But I just want to affirm for anybody who is totally relating to these cards, which I also am. I'm totally in this field right now. Maybe I'm influencing this reading. I don't know. But This is a really beautiful place to be. And I often find the Eight of Swords is the place that we go before we have a huge point of connection and clarity. So we have to trust ourselves through this. Now, Two of Swords is a little different because this is much more about holding off on forcing ourselves to make every decision about our lives and sitting still enough to look around before we make commitments, before we, say yes to everything and realize that we don't have the energy or the interest in it. This is just a moment to pause and discern. Both of these cards are very much highlighting an important aspect of this season is going to be sitting with the discomfort of really hearing ourselves, which at first will seem very scary, but then is such a relief, and then moving. It's just a reminder of that. It's just a reminder of that process being so, so valid, and that mystery and that not knowing is a really important part of the journey. It's not something to get over or to avoid or to get through as quickly as possible, but is really here to help us discern and see. And I think actually these two women, when you really look at them, they're actually seers. They are seeing from a different plane. So while we here on the physical might see them as blindfolded women who are disempowered, when you really look, these are characters that are going through a seeing process and are in their seer state. So it's also a reminder of that. I am going to be offering up my 4-week series. It's ongoing, starting on the solstice over on my Patreon. It's going to be softly crossing the threshold into a new year. We are going to have a chat every week and a series of journaling prompts just to softly open up this year, be in our not knowing, be in our seer state, and to give ourselves a lot of gracious space to open up the new season. I would love to see you there for that. It's going to be basically all of Capricorn season. We'll be doing that, as well as offering up a lot of resources for Mercury retrograde and how to move through all of that. So I'm really looking forward to providing that for you. I will also be doing new moons and all the good stuff here, full moons, all of that's coming up. I would love it if you subscribe and stuck around. You can also find me on Instagram. It really helps me out being here and having you here and hearing your voices and hearing about how you are moving through this Capricorn season. So I'm so looking forward to the conversations ahead, and please leave a comment about how you are feeling at this time of year. Talk to you so soon. Have a beautiful Capricorn season ahead.